So you describe yourself as a transformation
Yes.
specialist,
Yeah.
and I think one of the really cool thoughts that you have is everything begins with a thought. Can you run myself and the listeners through what that means?
Yeah, I'll be so happy to, Nick. So life's a conversation. That's how I look at life. So you're either having a conversation with yourself or with someone else. And thoughts begin that confirmation, thoughts begin that conversation process. And when I was exposed to the concept that thoughts create your world, that really blew me away. And then I thought, well, how does that actually work? So if you look around wherever you are right now, look around, like apart from nature, but we could argue that, but we'll leave that one to the side. Everything you see was someone else's thought at some stage. This camera I'm looking into, this wall was a thought by an architect to make. This piece of furniture I'm looking at. So it that really struck me when I thought of it like that. That things are created and experienced as well, starting with a thought. So that's why I'm big on being mindful about what you think, because thoughts and then ultimately words create your world.
So does that translate to personality traits too? Like, does I have this painting in front of me that someone thought of, right? Can I also say, I see this person who's really confident and they thought to be confident and they made that happen?
Yeah, well, that's the beautiful thing about being human. We make up so many stories in our head anyway,
Hmm.
so may as well make one up that's empowering.
Yeah.
And if that empowers you, my view would be absolutely go for it.
How much room do you spare in your head for negative but constructive thoughts? Because there's a balance there of some of it's good for you, most of it's probably not. Like, how much do you let in?
Yeah. It's a really good question. So I had experience this morning, my time, which was a bit negative, right? So I'm just like you. I have things that happen that could be construed as negative and things that could be construed as positive. So the whole mindfulness thing is about being mindful about what you think. So you can't necessarily change what happened, but you can change or you can have control. And some people say that's where the freedom is. It's between what happens and your reaction to what happens. That's where freedom lives.
Mhm.
So if something perceived as negative, let's say I'm pitching to speak at a conference that I really want to speak at and I get a no. So I could look at that as that's really negative. That's a rejection. They don't want me. I'm not good enough. Why am I doing all this work and trying to help the human race and they don't want to be helped? I could think
Mhm.
all of those things and I actually might think those things because and everyone has to be more careful and gentle with themselves and not judge all the thoughts that you have as good and bad. So I try
Mhm.
not to live in a world of good and bad. So if I'm having those thoughts, it's like, okay, you're human, you're having those thoughts. But because of a lot of the mindfulness work that I've done, the next thing I might ask myself is, now what? What was the lesson? I love sayings. Sometimes they can be a bit cliched, but I like you win or you learn.
Mhm.
And you know that from sports, you get a lot of great learnings from sports. So if I didn't win that one, what did I learn? Okay, I might have learned, well, firstly, not to take it personally, who knows what's happening in their world. Later in the show, I want to share with you my favorite poem about you never really truly know what's happening underneath the surface. And I've got a great poem I can share with you about that. So they might have already had three speakers lined up, and I might have been the fourth. I might not have been sending my proposal quick enough. So that might have been the reason. It could have purely been timing. But if I let myself go down a rabbit hole of despair and negative thoughts, that's not going to empower who I am, what I want to be, and then the mission that I'm on. So I try and look at things through the mission, the lens of this is what I'm here on the planet to do. And that helps me a lot. Now, being human, we've got that negative bias tendency. So we do
Mhm.
have the tendency because, that keeps us safe. back when tigers were chasing us or whatever, we needed to be negative and look out for things that were going to hurt us. Now, these days, we've moved on socially a lot quicker than we have mentally in some ways. And so when something that we perceive as negative has happened to us, we think we're under threat. And if we're under threat, we'll try and protect ourselves, stay in our space, not venture out because that's unsafe and that might hurt us. And so having the knowledge that that's what's going on in my head has really helped me. And it allows me to deal with those negative thoughts that come in. So they will come in. There's absolutely no doubt because human beings are wired like that. So then it's like, what are you going to do between them coming in and the next thing? Sometimes it's just a matter of taking a deep breath and going, okay, that hurt me. That upset me. I feel uncomfortable now. So take a breath, reset. I've got heaps for you. I don't know if you've heard.
No, I love that. That was great.
I've got the thing called the emotion wheel.
Okay.
So sometimes it's hard, and I did this with my coach this morning, so I have to tell you about it, right? Because that literally happened to me. I had some negative feedback about something about my about the pitch that I was doing, and I got on the phone to my coach because that's one of the services that she offers me as my coach. But I would recommend anyone on the call have someone you can reach out to when you're feeling this way. So I was upset and I found it hard to articulate what the emotions. So I spoke to Karina, we got out the emotion wheel, and it's, I'll encourage everyone to Google it so they can use it for themselves. It's free, you can print it off, you can have it, and it really helps you identify the emotions. And once you can identify it, you can really deal with it. It's a bit like that expression, name it to tame it. So we went through that. We went through that exercise, and what it turned out to be, Nick, is that when I was a kid, I had a strategy to avoid upset. And what happened in this conversation this morning, that plugged into that strategy that I'd created when I was a kid. And that's okay, that's going to happen. But now I realize as an adult, where that strategy might have worked as a child, as an adult, that strategy is not useful for me anymore. So there's nothing wrong that happened. But now I have the understanding through working with my coach, identifying that emotion and then seeing what actually really happened in that conversation. So what really happened was I reacted because it plugged into a strategy that I used as a child. Mind blowing. and real access to power that way, instead of me feeling upset all day thinking, oh, this happened to me and what a bastard that guy was for going down that road, and instead of being empowering, because that was another thing, right? I'm putting my way of being onto someone else. I'm empowering, I'm enthusiastic. You tell me you're doing something, you're going for something, I'm going to give you encouragement and say, go for it. Mm-hmm. So a few lessons there. So I didn't win, so to speak, but geez, I learned a lot of lessons.
How much of your day-to-day life are you reflecting versus doing? Because that's something I've been thinking about a lot of. I take in so much information on how to be more confident, how to be a better marketer, how to do this or that. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to find the balance of, going as hard as I can and picking a direction and staying focused, but also kind of coming up for air and being like, all right, let's reflect. And then also not spending too much time reflecting and not doing. Like, I'm curious for you as someone who does a lot and is in this world, right? How much of your week do you think is spent reflecting?
Every day for a little bit a day. And I'm really about learning, definitely, and reflection, as you're talking about, and then combining that with action. Because for a lot of years, all I did was learn and I didn't do the action, right? So I would be one of these serial go on 5 courses a year kind of guys. Mm-hmm. So, and I loved it, right? And so I'd be learning. And as I'm sitting there or as I'm in the class and learning stuff, I'll be thinking, I want to be what that person is. I want to be the one teaching and helping people rather than sitting here in the audience learning. So I always had that thought in the back of my mind. But I think what I did was it was a great way to delay or to keep safe by continually learning, and not actually doing. And you're right, though, it is a balance and it might be different for everyone. But I make sure every morning I have it only takes 6 minutes, and I have a recording. So most people would do something like this exercise and read it. But because I've got equipment and I wanted my voice to be telling me and my subconscious this kind of stuff. So it helps me visualize the future that I am creating, feel the feelings of that, and then embody that and then anchor that into my body through breath work.
Mhm.
And then I need to, in that same thing, think about some of the actions I'm going to take to create that life. So it's a great mixture of learning, thinking, and taking that action as well. So we're lifelong learners. We've got to grow, right? So learn. But I don't know if there's people out there who are like me. It depends, I guess, on what stage of life you're at. But I looking back now, I can see that I was doing that to avoid the doing.
Mm. Does that ever, like, overwhelm you? Because that's something I've been reading about recently is, you know, almost trying to do too much, and I've been
Yeah.
guilty of that in my life where it's like I tried to make this whole, like, routine morning plan, and it was like, from the second I woke up to before I left, it was like green drink, breath work, mindset, journaling, and then it was just, like, too much, and I'd get
Yeah.
overwhelmed and stressed, and
Yeah.
I saw a fun quote that was, speaking about America, it was like, "This country was built on the backs of people who smoked cigars, ate breakfast, and didn't wear a car seat. Like, if you don't do your biohacking this morning, it's gonna be all right." And I thought that was hilarious. And I'm just curious for you because I know you also do a lot of this. Like, does that happen to you? Like, do you have spurts where it's like, this is too much? Or do you find you have a good balance?
Mate, I get overwhelmed all the time, especially because I've got some big dreams and goals. And
Mhm.
so there's a couple of ways, and you're going to know them, but there's a couple of ways that works for me. It's one, getting into the present moment. So my favorite saying is, wherever your hands are, be there. Right.
Mm.
So right now I'm in my office having a great conversation with you. All I need to do is be in this moment. And that helps me because if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm either projecting, worried about what the future may hold, or I'm worried about something that happened in the past. So all that overwhelm is taking you out of the present moment, because the present moment's a beautiful moment, and whether it's then being present in the moment and then a bit of gratitude or appreciation. I know it's a cliche. I know a lot of people talk about it,
No, I
and it might
completely
even
agree.
be like an extra thing. Oh God, do I have to do that too? But it doesn't have to take a lot of time. So if you have if you have the awareness to realize you're overwhelmed, that is amazing in itself, because not everyone has that. And then secondly, it's like, okay, what now in the present moment? I've got a great saying that I say, all is well, everything is happening for my highest good. Out of this situation, only good will come. I am safe. And I will repeat that over and over until I feel like I'm okay. And so it helps me get into the present moment, realize what's important, and I am safe. I am okay. I love gaming, right? So
Uh,
I might be playing a bit of Battlefield 2042. I know not everyone
I
plays
love
COD or
that.
whatever, but I'm a Battlefield man.
Nice.
And I might be playing that and I go, oh, Jesus, I feel a bit guilty because I could be doing 10 other things right now. It's like, hang on a minute, John. You have a vision that you're fulfilling. You've already taken hundreds of actions today to try and fulfill that. Cut yourself some slack, have a break. If you had 500 million bucks in the bank and you helped millions of people around the world, why wouldn't you just spend 1 or 2 hours on your doing something that you love to do? So we're
Mhm.
so hard on ourselves. I don't know if I've answered your question there, but I have thrown out a few things that you and others might be able to do to
Yeah.
try and beat that overwhelm. I guess if I had to crystallize it a bit as well without going off on all these tangents, I'd say find what works for you to do a quick reset, and for God's sake, go easy on yourself.
Yeah,
Because
that
you
that
are
last
doing,
one
you are
that
being great
last one is such a
already.
big one. That last one is such a big one, being hard on ourselves, and I finished the 4 Agreements recently. Have you read that?
No, tell me about it.
It's great. It's basically like 4 agreements to make with yourself and, like, you'll have a good life, right? Like, that's the concept. But one of the things in the book is it was talking about one of the biggest mistakes humans make is we assume other people will judge us as harshly as we judge ourselves.
Yeah.
And I thought that one was really cool. And another thing from the book you might like is I'm curious your thoughts on it. One of the assumptions was don't take anything personally. And from a confidence perspective and just from a not overthinking perspective, like, what do you think about that one? Because that was kind of my big favorite from the book.
Yeah, yeah. I like it, but it's really challenging to do. It's
Oh, yeah.
logically correct,
Mhm.
but emotionally, I find that it's something that I continued to work on. And this is where this emotion will really help when I could start to actually know. Because sometimes you just don't feel right. Something will happen. You
Yeah.
know you don't feel right, but you just can't put your finger on it.
Mhm.
Something, I don't know, some neurons fire or something great happens in your brain where you can actually get the comfort to know I'm feeling that way and that way and that way. And then I'm fortunate enough to go another level deeper with a coach where she can say, okay, great. Now we've identified that. Let's have a look at where that might have come from because it's probably something in your past that you're connecting in with.
You you hinted at it earlier that you have a lot of big dreams, right?
Mm,
And I'm assuming you've had big dreams for a long time. I'm assuming that's not a new thing.
yeah.
And I'm assuming that I'm hoping that you've reached some of those dreams before. Do you take time to reflect and realize, like, where you are now versus where you were then? Do you feel like you still kind of battle with, like, oh, like, once I get there, I'll be happy? Like, is that something that's been prevalent for you? Because I feel like that's something I've been thinking about a lot of, like, trying to remind
Yeah.
myself, like, it's gonna, like, be grateful now. Like, don't have that if then mentality.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right, Nick. I have had the dream of doing what I'm doing now for years. There was a few lessons that I had to learn along the way. And I did a personal development 3-day course one time. And on the last day, I was sitting next to a girl called Madeline. And she said, "Oh, I'm John." I think I was, geez, it was over 15 years ago. Excuse me. And she said, "Oh, John, what do you want to be? Why are you in this course?" And I said, "Well, I want to be an international speaker because I feel like that's what I've been put on the planet to do. I've had some great feedback that I'm good at it and I love it and I feel at home on stage." And she said, "Oh, right. Do you know you can be that right now?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, how do you think an international speaker, how do you think they would be?" And I said, "Oh, I think they'd be inspirational, motivational, empathetic, passionate." And she said, "Well, you don't have to wait. You can be that right now." And then she explained to me that a lot of us, we think we need to do something, to have something, so we can be something, where this flips it around. So you work on how you want to be first, and then that determines the kind of actions that you're going to do. And then you do them with a much better context. And then you have what you have. And in some ways, the having is the least important
Yep.
because you've been living that. Now, the cliche is it's the journey, not the destination. Yeah, that's right. Because when you think about it, let's say you win a basketball championship. That is an amazing moment. But it was all those games before the championship game that were really, that's the most amount of time,
Yeah.
the most amount of your life. So when you actually achieve the goal, that's the smallest amount of your life. And then you are left with what's next. I remember seeing the quarterback. He's from the Eagles. He cost a lot
Jalen
of
Hurts.
money.
Jalen Hurts, like the one right now.
No, a previous one, and then I think he went to New York after was it the Eagles? So what happened with him? I should know that guy's name. Anyway, what happened with him in there
Nick
was a
Foles.
docket. Pardon?
Carson Wentz, Nick Foles. Those are my last two guesses, I promise.
No, that's all right. I should. Who's that Netflix doco? Are you going to edit this bit out? we keep it. Oh, I can't do that. I can't do that in real time. I was going to try and Google it myself.
That's all right. We'll let it slide. Some Eagles quarterback.
Yeah, and then I think he went to New York, and he was a big hope for New York, but he failed there, and everyone got stuck into him. But because they won the Super Bowl, and that was a letdown for him after the initial. That's the point of this story, so I guess it doesn't matter who it is. But that initially was a great high, but then it was a letdown because he's like, now what? I've been working my entire life to achieve this goal, and now I've got it. Now what? I feel a bit empty. What am I striving for now? So having that realization that it is the journey. I don't want to say that because it's a cliche, but it is the journey, and that's the longest amount of time you're going to spend on something. That's where the work is the reward.
Isn't it so? I find it so silly how there's countless rich people, countless famous people, countless successful people that go like, this is not fulfilling. And yet every time we go, but yeah, sure. But like, let me check, right? Like, let me see, right? You're like, no, you don't just have to have a girlfriend. It's like, no, you don't have to like be rich to feel happy. You don't have to do this to that. And it's like, no, but like, I want to, let me make sure.
Yeah.
And I just find it so silly. And I do the same thing. But it's just such a innate human nature.
It is. And it's good that you said that. It's good to recognize that, because as a race, we will survive if there's always another level to go to.
Yes.
If as a race, imagine we went, there's no other level to go to, just sit around, do nothing, don't evolve.
Yeah, just kind of hang out for a bit.
There's nothing else. Mm-hmm. So we would eventually not be around. But if we have embedded into our conscious, subconscious, our brain, there's always another level to go to. And you might have to break through some things to get there, but it's good over there. So we have this thing, it's good over there. The grass is always greener over there. Or as my mum used to say, English was her second language as she came to Australia from the Netherlands, the fence is always greener on the other side. but she knew what she meant. So we have that grass is greener on the other side. It's inbuilt into us so we can strive, be better, and have the species survive. So knowing that that's how we're driven, it's a really big awareness. It's a really big insight. In some way, it's like peeling layers of the matrix away, going, holy shit, I just thought I was attracted to that girl because I like that. But no, what's really going on is your biological brain and is firing off, going, she would be great to reproduce with, and the species will survive. And the pheromones or the smell that she's, they did that study and they had with the shirts and the smell.
Yeah, exactly what you're talking about.
And it was, and the matching was the best mate for the survival of the species. So their their DNA or their chromosomes or whatever would be even better if they were a match. So all these things going on in the background that we don't realize. And when you peel back a little bit of the matrix and go, holy shit, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. My big philosophy recently has been just do as much as I can, like good and bad, right? Like my measure for success at the moment is just doing. And so far that's working out. But it's hard. I got to remind myself, especially when you're doing things that suck. And you're like, this is terrible. I'm stressed. I don't know about this. And it's a constant battle. But then, when I look back, I never look back and I'm like, oh man, like I'm glad I won that thing. Right. It's like, no, I'm glad I did that thing, or I'm glad I pushed through that thing that scared me, or I'm glad I did that because now I became this person.
Exactly. And sometimes the harder it is, the more rewarding it is at the end.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
I think being action orientated is fantastic. It goes to what you're saying about the balance between learning and the doing. Some will say there's no better learning than actually doing, because you will remember the lesson, or it'll benefit you more having that experience. But Action is eloquence, as Shakespeare has said, and Tony Robbins will also say, following your dreams or fulfilling your dreams is easy. Just do a shitload of action.
Yeah. Yeah. And on your point earlier, there's a great Patrick but David quote that says, sometimes it's hard to love things that come too easily.
Yeah,
Which I
right.
like a lot.
Yeah. I like that too. And they say, anything worth anything takes something.
Mm.
And in the business that I'm in, sometimes my wife will say to me, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big entrepreneurial thing, right? Is like you have this idea and you're like, I can't tell anybody. It's like, well, no, you can tell as many people as you want. It's like that's not the hard part. The hard part is doing it.
You just reminded me about the entrepreneurial stuff. I saw this great graph. It said what entrepreneurs first think how their business is going to be, like them and their goal, and a straight line. And then underneath it, have you seen that one? Then underneath it, it goes them, their goal, and then it's all these curves and ups and downs, and says, win, self-doubt, success, and it's true. Well, that's been my experience anyway, because it's who, and we've both read this, but it's worth saying again, who you become achieving the goal is actually more important than achieving the goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love Jay Shetty. He's got a great podcast.
Yeah.
And one of his best pieces of advice that I've ever heard from him is, you're going to get what you want. It's just not going to happen how you think it's going to happen.
That's right.
And that's helped me for sure, where it's like, but I'm going to get this job, or my company is going to do this. And it doesn't happen how you think it's going to happen. You're like, no, it's coming. It's just, the odds that you guessed how it's going to happen first time around are very, very low, right? And it's still good to have a plan, and it's still good to keep trying and, keep your direction, but don't panic and jump off the boat if you end off course a little bit.
You would know as well, and the listeners, I'm sure that you've had times in your life where things didn't work out how you thought they would work out. You look back and you go, thank God that happened that way. At the time, I wasn't very happy that it didn't turn out, but, I'm glad that girl dumped me, even though I was devastated at the time. But had she not done that, I would have not met the love of my life.
Yeah, you could tee it up a lot of ways. That's what Gary Vee says a lot. When people ask him about Uber, he's like, dude, I don't think about that shit, because hypothetically I could invest in Uber and made $3 billion and then died in a plane crash going to an investors meeting. He's like, you can't get wrapped up in that.
Yeah, it'll twist your noodle.
Yeah. So one of the big things about being your best self, right, and growing and doing this is you got to show up every day. What are some of the things that you think kind of sabotage people every day that are fixable?
Yeah. We've touched on a few of them already, and people beat themselves up for the things they are not doing instead of acknowledging what they have doing. The other thing as well is, if you're having a bad day, you can have a bad day. That's up to you. If you're like, I'm not feeling it today, I'm tired, I worked hard yesterday, I might have overdone it yesterday, and then I had a gym session, and then I did this, and then I did that, and next thing I knew, it was like 2:00 in the morning, and then I got up at 6:00 this morning to go to my gym session, and now I'm absolutely exhausted. You can go, you know what? I'm going to honor myself and my body and ultimately my journey by taking a bit of time out today and handling what I might need to have handled. But then at the same time going, enough's enough. What do I need? Well, I actually need to go on the couch right now, maybe even fall asleep and just take some time. You could say, you and I would say, maybe read a book or do this or that. And you could do that. But then there's sometimes those days, you know what? Enough. I'm just doing this today.
Yeah.
And the thing is, that's okay. Imagine the privilege of having the insights to be, I'm following my dreams. I've already done heaps of work over the last days, months, years, whatever. And I'm going to take a break right now because that's what I need. That's what I feel like I need to do. And you got to do it without judgment. Without that fear and judgment. Now, fear is your friend, right? Because fear will, stop you walking across the road and getting hit by a car or something like that. So fear is your friend. But at the same time, if fear dominates you by going, I'm scared that if I take time for myself, I'm going to fulfill my goal a day later or a month later or whatever, because my journey doesn't have the experience of the action I would have taken today.
Yeah.
Well, I would suggest that that doesn't serve you, because to be able to show up as your best self, you've got to give yourself some self care sometimes.
Mm.
So, I make sure what works for me, I make sure I get a massage every 2 weeks. I'd love to have one every week, but
Oh, I'm
I just
jealous.
build
I
one
want
in.
that. I should do that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
I like that.
using the body to enhance the mind and to set yourself up to be your best self, uh, absolutely something that I learned. That's why I work out 3 times a week. I always liked to exercise, but I stopped for years. And the last couple of years, I've been working out 3 times a week, not because I necessarily love it, although I don't mind it, but not necessarily when the alarm goes off at 5:30 in the morning. But I do it because I know the benefits that I'll get from it. So my using my body to enhance the mind, a big thing, something we all know intrinsically that works, but then there's that gap between the knowing and the doing.
Yeah, I get asked a lot about confidence and productivity. Like, how are you confident? How are you how are you so productive? And one of the first things I always say is like, well, when I wake up in the morning, I feel like I look good and my body also feels good, right? 80% of the time, if it's not a Saturday morning. I wasn't out the night before, right? But it's like I'm wearing an outfit that I spent time on and that I feel I look good in. I went to the gym a lot that week. I went to bed at a reasonable time. I drank water. I don't have a headache, right? And like those little things really give you the fuel to do the other stuff. Like it's so much the startup cost to to do your reading, to do your journaling, to do your reflection is so much lower
Mm,
when you feel good.
mm. Yeah, definitely. And doing those things that you know will set you up for success. We talked about gratitude and appreciation earlier. You don't have to actually you can use it in a when you're feeling overwhelmed, but you don't have to go, okay, at between 6 and 6:15 p.m. I'm going to be grateful. No, you can just do that as you're
Mhm.
doing your day. So when I'm making a coffee and I see that coffee drip down into the mug, I'm so grateful for this cup of coffee and I'm really going to enjoy it. That just sets the neurons in my brain going, and I'm genuinely feel that way just
Yep.
about when my coffee's being made. So you can incorporate some of these things during your day, which can also set you up for success.
Yeah. And like you said, it's a journey and you have ups and downs. And one of the great lessons I live by is the rule of thirds is a third of the time it should go shitty, a third of the time it should go good, and a third of the time it should go great. Right. And that
Yeah.
helps balances me.
And balance is often the key. And I guess we're talking a bit about that when we're saying, what happens when you feel overwhelmed or things like that. So having the balance is good. And one of the principles that I bring into workplaces that I work with is celebrating success. So,
Hmm.
and that can be small wins as well. So if you got up in time, went to the gym, you should be damn proud of that and go, well done, Nick. Well done, you listening. Well done, John. You did that. Right. I do a group class when I'm at the gym, and I feel like saying to everyone, thanks for coming and showing up, because I know it took something, because it took something for me to be here, but
Hmm.
celebrate now because you did it. And now
Hmm.
you've started the day beautifully. I haven't said that yet. And the guy, Brad, that owns the gym would let me say that. And maybe I should, to make a difference. But my point is, celebrate even the little things, because we're so busy getting to the next thing. It's like, hang on a minute. You got the Blueprint for Success podcast and you got this many episodes going and you're doing this. That's to be celebrated. You might
Yeah.
get your stats and you might go, holy crap, there's been people from 15 countries has listened to this before. That's to be celebrated. Or, I'm sure you got plenty of things, but I say that so you, me, and the listener, or listeners, I should say, but I know there's probably only one listener at a time, uh, can think about that and think, what can you celebrate right now? What's something good that's happened or that you've done or an action that you've taken to show up as your best self or to help someone else or whatnot, because that'll make you feel good. That'll get the neurons firing in your brain that the more they fire, what I found, the happier you be.
Yeah, I agree. But I want to tease this out a little bit.
Sure.
I'm curious your thoughts on this too, because there's also the argument to be said of like, if like for the gym, right? Like if you feel like you're someone who goes to the gym all the time and you're a gym head, then going to the gym isn't going to feel like you going out of your way. It's like that's just something I do. So I think there's also something to be said there too. If you're like, if that's just who I am, that's the kind of person I am. Like that isn't like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's somebody said of like if you celebrate it too much too often, then it's like a rarity, and it's not something that you do every day. And I also think that does play a part too. Of like for at least me now, I go to the gym. Like I don't think about the gym before I go to the gym, and I don't think about the gym after I go to the gym. It's like that's just something I do. It's a habit.
Mm.
It's part of my personality. And I think before, when I was trying to get into the gym, it was like, oh damn, the gym's coming up. And then after, I'd be like, oh, I'm so proud of myself. I went to the gym.
Mm.
And I agree with you. I'm not saying celebration shouldn't be a part of it, but I also think there's also that little aspect of like, if you celebrate too often, then, you're not going to get used to it. I don't
Yeah,
know. What do you
well,
think about that?
I'm going to challenge you, Nick.
Challenge me back. I like it. Let's do it.
So I think you're taking it for granted,
Okay.
because that does take something and is worth celebrating. And there would be hundreds, if not thousands, of people listening to this wishing that they were doing that, right? And you are doing that. So you are demonstrating greatness and walking the talk and setting yourself up. And I believe that's to be celebrated. Now, I hear you that it's like, because when I go to bed, because it takes no time, I think of at least 3 things that I'm grateful for that day, right?
Right.
That's a technique a lot of people know, but it really helps with your subconscious, and sleep's amazing how it organizes your thoughts while you're asleep and things like that. So if you can be thinking about something like that before you go to sleep, that's going to help you. And yes, you could think of the 3, well, for want of a better word, mediocre things that you've done. Or no, let me put it a different way. 3 things that come easy to you,
Right.
and you could, and that would achieve the purpose as well. But if you want to challenge yourself, so firstly, I say that is extraordinary what you're doing, and is to be celebrated. But if you're the kind of person that goes, okay, John, yeah, but I feel like I'm cheating if I'm doing that because that's coming easy to me now. Great, well, celebrate something else. What's something else that you did that might not have come easy? Did you make that phone call? Did you appreciate that sunlight on your face? Did you read the 5 pages of that book you wanted to? Did you not beat yourself up for being a human being today? Or did you pick yourself up and stop that? So there's lots of different things when you search your mind that you could appreciate if you're finding. People say to me, "Oh, John, when you're on stage, that was amazing," and I think, "Oh, thanks for saying that, because that's really my purpose." But that comes easy to me. I don't know
Yeah.
why. Well, I've got some idea why, but that comes easy to me, where that's most people's fear. And I can't understand how that's most people's fear, because I love it so much, right? But I've got to acknowledge, if people say that to me, they really, really are giving me a compliment, because what's easy for me is not easy for them. And that's what they're saying. They're saying, this wouldn't be easy for me to do. I can appreciate you for what you're doing, because it's not easy. It's maybe the same for people listening about that want to get healthier and are not taking any action. It's easy for you, might not be easy for them.
Reflecting on that, I think the key for me, or an idea to tease out a little bit, is being grateful for who I am. So being grateful, I'm grateful that I'm a great public speaker, grateful that I go to the gym, grateful for the identity, I guess, for the being.
Yeah.
And then you can tease out a little bit, like, grateful that I go to the gym. I went X amount of times this week. I benched X amount, right? I look like X in the mirror. I think being grateful for like the identity and the who you are also helps, so you don't turn it into a one-time thing.
Yeah, well, and you've already won the race. We all have, right? So there was a few billion sperm or whatever. We were born, so we've already won that race. So we've already won just by the fact that we're here. So anything else is extraordinary and fantastic. But maybe if you're humble, maybe that could be a challenge, right? For someone that's humble to say, "Oh, I don't really want to big up myself," or say, I'm so great at this, or I'm so great at that. So sometimes getting that external validation is okay. But one of my big learnings, that's taken me ages to learn this, is that I needed outside validation to feel my self-worth. And I think that's a human trait. But now I really have that awareness that I can operate. That's good if I get it, but it's not the reason why I'm doing it. Where I think for a lot of years, that was the reason, to get that external validation. I don't know, we kind of went off on a tangent like,
No,
like
I
I've
love it.
been doing there. But that was a really, really important learning for me. But what I wanted to say to you was, and partly I'm saying about that external validation is because I feel like saying to you right now, Nick, you're extraordinary. You are doing a podcast interview across the world on a Sunday evening.
Hmm.
That's not everyone's doing that. That's to be
True.
celebrated. You could go to bed tonight and going, you know what? I fulfilled one of my dreams and personal goals. Got another interview in the can and had a great conversation.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that.
I would say, not bad. Just kidding. No, I love that. And a really cool, what's funny is I always say like really cool saying this. And I think people always assume it's like something I read, which I do read a lot, but a lot of it's also just like Instagram reels and it's just clips from podcasts.
Yeah.
But a great Instagram reel I got was, oh man, I wish I could remember the guy's name, but he made a great perspective, which was happiness should be your default. Like, what if happiness was your default, right? And it's like you're not searching for it, you're not looking for the validation. It's like it's just there, right? And it's more about getting rid of the negative thoughts and all that stuff than wishing for the big job and the big this and being grateful for what's already happening, which I think
Well,
ties
getting
into
back
what
to
you were
that being,
saying.
one of the things I learned in this same personal development course that I did, which is a kind of pretty amazing concept. And I think originally when people hear this, they'll go, come on, no, that's not it. But you can generate any way of being at any time of your life. So if you wanted to generate happiness, you could. And there's ways to do it, but this is a pretty extreme example. Like, you can generate any way of being. If someone put a gun to your head and said, you have to be this particular way right now, you would do it, right? Because your life depended on it, literally. So it's just an example to show you that you can generate any way of being you want at any time. You just have to choose and decide and do it.
Yeah. At what age do you think skateboarding is not cool? Like, I don't want to get too deep here, but I was, I'm thinking about it the other day. I'm like, skateboarding's cool until like what age? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think until you fall and
To
break
get
a
injured,
bone.
until your bones can't handle it anymore.
When your bones can't handle it. But what's
I feel like
Hawk?
30s. I feel like 30s it gets a little sketch.
30s? How old's Hawkey? He's getting up there.
Yeah, but he's like the best skateboarder of all time. Like, he can skate as long as he wants, and it's cool. It's like if Tiger Woods can play golf, and it's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah. Yeah, you really floored me on that one too.
isn't that funny? That's funny. I
Yeah.
could throw something at you. People throw these complicated self-help topics at you all day, and you're like, I've got it. And then all of a sudden we're talking about skateboarding. And it's like, oh no.
Well, I like skateboarding. See, what occurs to me straight away is like, do whatever the fuck you want to do without judgment. So if you're 60 and you want to ride a skateboard and you don't look cool, just ride a skateboard. Do whatever the hell you want because it's your life. And if you feel impressed to do that, do it. So that's really my first
Good answer. No,
response.
stick with that. Stick to the guns. I like it.
But now I'm going, into that, into the personal development realm, I guess, because you're actually doing something and not worried about the consequences, but you feel impressed to do that because that'll make you happy or give you some joy. So whatever gives you joy, or what John Lennon would say, whatever gets you through the night. But I did use that approach in my early 20s, and it took me a while to realize whatever gets you through the night sometimes isn't the best for your long-term health.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, one of the things I'm most intrigued to learn about you that I don't already know,
Mhm.
is something that got teased in our intro call, which was a breakthrough you had with relationships that you said allowed you to get married. And I
Yes.
would really, really like to know more.
Yeah, well, I realized I was gay.
Really?
Joking.
That would also be a really big one.
That wasn't a bit. You know, so,
Is that your
well,
go-to opener with that one? That's good.
well, people, and I thought this was funny, but other people didn't think it was funny, so I stopped saying it, right? But people say, "Oh, where did you meet your wife?" You say, "Oh, at a gay bar." Um,
I have that
I
with
just thought it
my
was, yeah.
I
I'm the
have that
kind
with
of
my
person, if I think something's funny, I'll say it, and then, but after a while, if it doesn't land, I'll eventually have the presence of mind to go, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't say that." But
yeah,
if
I
I
have
think
that
it's funny,
joke with I have a joke with my tattoo. I have like a bunch of birds and people I got it cuz it reminds me to take risks and I just think it looks cool. But sometimes I'll be like sometimes I'll be like, "Yeah, I grew up in an orphanage and it's for every brother and sister I grew up with." Cuz like I don't have a good reason. Just thought it looked cool.
That's great. I like that. And do people, how do they respond to
They
that?
go, "Oh my god." And I go, "No, I'm just kidding." They go, "Oh."
Yeah. 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 But so you think it's funny, so you say it. So yeah, I can definitely appreciate that. So this is something where it was really interesting to me because another one of those examples of where something happened in my past. I made a decision. I didn't even realize or remember that I made that decision and was living out my life based on that decision. So
Mhm.
what happened was I was doing the dishes with my mother. We just had a family dinner. I was about 16 years old. And my dad said a few things at the dinner table. I thought, oh, that doesn't sound like what someone would say if they were in a loving relationship. So I said to my mum, "Doesn't Dad love you anymore?" And I half expected her to say yes or just, placate me or, whatever. She said, "I don't know, John. I don't know." And that just floored me. And so I made a decision right then that marriage was a sham and a lie, and why would you bother? And then I forgot all about that and forgot that decision that I made. And I just went through life going, I'm going to be a bachelor. Why get married? You know,
Mm.
we're having and I split up with a couple of girls because they wanted to get married and I didn't. And we split up still in love. But because I wouldn't go the next step, and I didn't know why I wouldn't go the next step, and I'm glad I didn't now looking back, I wouldn't be with my wife right now and have a couple of great kids that I've got. Um, I just thought that that's who I was. So I wasn't scared or put off by being in a relationship. I just would not get married. And when I realized that I was living my life in that area based off the decision of an upset 16-year-old boy, I decided I don't want to live my adult life. I think I was about 35 at the time. I don't want to be a 35-year-old man living my life based of a decision of an upset teenager. And then about 18 months later, I met my wife, and that's a story in itself. We met in May. We moved in September that year. I proposed in October that year. We got married in February the next year. She was pregnant in March that year. So she'd be lying on my couch. We'd be living together, pregnant. And I say, "Holy shit, Renee, you're my wife. You're pregnant. You're lying on my couch. And I haven't even known you for a year."
All because of the gay bar. This is great. That's crazy.
And that was 17 years ago.
Wow. That is cool. I love the way you put that. I don't want to be a 35-year-old living a life based on a teenager's decision.
Yeah, and it was only that, you talked a bit about reflection earlier. It was only because I did this personal development course where um, I was asked a few questions and then that came out and I hadn't thought about it like that ever. I was like, oh, wow.
You're like, "Oh,
It was a really
shit."
big breakthrough and insight.
Yeah. What do you think is holding young men back today? Because there's a lot of interesting stats out there, including, I saw one that over 50% of young men haven't asked someone out in person. That there's a lot of stats that show young men are lonelier, and less relationships are happening. And I'm curious from your perspective, what do you think is kind of holding people back, young men back?
I think fear of rejection's a big one.
Hmm.
I think there's more options now to distract yourself so you don't need to do the things that maybe someone like me had to do before. Um, back in the 1800s, no, back when. So you don't have to go out now to meet people. Where
Yep.
back in my day, I had to go out to meet people, or you always meet a friend of a friend, or a work colleague, or something like that. Where you've got access to so much entertainment now that you can do that through the comfort of your own home, and you can do that by yourself if you want. So unless you really make an effort, you don't have to put yourself out there. You can still be pretty comfortable. So I think that's one of the reasons. I think that the education system really needs to give people life skills, kind of a lot of the things that we've talked about and that you know about, some of this stuff. You're
Yep.
amazing because you seek this out. You've got a curious mindset and you learn. And I love that you want to share that learning with others, especially young men we're talking about now, to help them and help them have a better life. So I, through that my 16 was a big year for me. So through that other incident where I was rejected by a girl, she dumped me. She cheated on me. Everyone knew that she cheated on me except for me, and I was devastated, and I didn't know how to deal with my emotions, and that was a big deal in my life, as you can imagine. So I get that it's can be really tough out there for men and women, but we're talking about guys at the moment because we're a couple of guys. So I get how hard it can be, and that if we had access to the skills and the knowledge and the tools to help us deal with what life throws at us from an early age, I think we'd all be in a better place. But I know there's a lot of challenges around that. And I know there's a lot of things where if you don't have a curious mindset, where you might not necessarily be in the environment of, pardon me, of uplift and positivity based on your family life or just, through life, it can be hard. And I do have a lot of empathy for people that think, well, that's all right for you, John. You're in Australia, and you probably had a good home life, and you were set up. But I guess that's the difference between nature and nurture. So it still takes something to be the kind of people that we are. But I think everyone can have access to that because everyone's got a mind and a brain, and it's just you know life. I heard this expression: life turns up the heat until you
Uh-huh.
get it.
Yeah.
So if life's turning up the heat on you, it's because you need to get something. And once you get it, once you take that action, think that different thought, do that different thing, make that phone call, have that conversation, life will still turn up the heat until you get it. I don't know if that
Yeah.
answers your question, but
No,
there's
it
some
totally
some
does. Yeah,
thoughts
that
there.
first insight, in terms of we don't have to, face rejection is totally spot on from what I see in the world, right? Like, if you want to study, right, you don't need to go to the library. Like, you can do it at home. If you want to hang out with your friends, you don't have to do it in person. You can play video games with them. If you want to go get food, you don't have to go to the cafeteria. You can DoorDash it. If you want to meet a girl, you don't have to go to the bar. You can swipe on Tinder, right? And we've gotten really comfortable, and we've gotten really scared because we're not getting the reps in, right? Like, I mean, your generation was getting the reps in all the time. You didn't have a
Yeah,
choice,
yeah,
right? Like, there was no Tinder, there was no DoorDash. You didn't get to choose
yeah,
that to be uncomfortable,
yeah,
to be comfortable. And we get to, and then of course we're going to pick that because it's the path of least resistance. So, I mean, I think circumstances have definitely um, screwed us a bit there in a good way. Our life is great and comfortable, but one of the side effects. And I think one insight too that I always like to share with people is because I think I do get viewed in that light as someone who is more confident. And like, I will, if I see someone at the bar who I think is cute, like, I will talk to them and I don't know them. Right. And I'm like, hey, I'm Nick. Right. Like, I'm not afraid to, I do that. But I think the key thing is there is like people think I'm not afraid. It's like, no, I'm terrified to do that. Like I do not want to do that. I'm scared to do it. But like I still do it. Right. And it's like I think people think it's like, oh, but like you do that because you can, because it's easy for you. Right. Like with public speaking, maybe. It's like, well, yeah, it's a little bit easier for me because I've done it a few times now and I'm confident and I feel like I look good and I'm excited to I like the idea of it, but it still scares the shit out of me at times. It's still not easy. And, I think, not making the excuse of like, oh, I'm just not born that way, right? Or I'm just not an extrovert, or I'm just not that. And not even using it as an excuse, as like, I don't want to put people down in that way, but I want to give them hope of like, no, like it's hard for everybody, right? It's not just hard for you.
So, because you had the courage, so courage is not the absence of fear, but taking action regardless.
Mm.
You do that, you demonstrate that, but that also can give hope to other people that, oh, Nick's doing it. What can I do? And you're honest enough to say, you know what, I'm putting myself out there. I'm a bit anxious, but I'm going to do it and see what happens. So yeah, I love that. That's how you operate.
Yeah. I try and keep it light too. Like, have you seen that Adam Sandler joke about him getting rejected?
I don't think so.
He's a great joke that I think is hilarious, where he was like, I was with my friend the other day and there's this really cute girl at the bar and I wanted to get her number, but I was way too scared. My friend was like, go up and talk to her. Like the worst she can say is no. And so, my friend talked me into it. I went up to her, asked her number, and she said, get away from me, you ugly pig. I was like, that is hilarious. I was like, just like, taking a step back and being like, it's all a game and none of it's like, it's not that serious, not that deep.
Yeah, and you've hit on something really good there because humor, laughter, and a bit of playfulness and not being so
Yeah.
significant about things, that really helps you have a great life.
For sure. Like, and it just helps you take things less personal,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Like if you can make fun of yourself in a healthy way, like that is so good.
yeah, yeah.
Because then you don't analyze and think every little thing.
Yeah, and if people say to me they were offended about a particular thing, I if I ask for their permission and if they're cool for me to explore that, I'll say, you decided to be offended because with that particular comment, because you believe in some way it's either true or it struck a chord. Because if I was dissing you out, Nick, and said, you are the worst female basketballer I've ever seen in my life, you'd go, well, for a start, that's not true because I'm not female. So you would just laugh it off and be like, that
Yeah.
doesn't hurt me at all, right?
Yeah.
So it's because, so I'll say you need to think about that kind of thing if you think you're being offended because you're the one making. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but can
I know what
you
you're
tell me
saying.
what I'm trying to say?
It hit there was a reaction because it was at least partially true.
Yeah. So, and it's up to you whether you take it on or not.
Yeah, that's a good insight. And do you know Rick Rubin? He's a music producer.
Yeah,
He's
guy
Rick
with a big
Rubin's great.
beard and
Yeah, he's a cool thing too, which and from a music perspective, which I think relates to this, is he says that like he's like anytime I listen to something that I hate, like I like have a reaction, I don't like it. He's like I will listen to it for a long time to figure out what it was because something sparked in me, right? He was like, if it's really good or really bad, I listen because there was for a reason, right? It wasn't like mediocre. Like, what is it? And exploring that can lead to some great insights, right? Like it could be for the marriage. It's like marriage, like absolutely no way. Like fuck that. It's like, okay, well, why did that happen? Right? Like let's dig deeper.
Yeah, someone said to me the other day about asking yourself why 3 times. You can just help in your reflection moment go, oh, why do I feel like that? Okay, and then why? And if you ask yourself 3 times, you often go to a level deeper where sometimes the insights live. But we're getting a bit heavy now, mate. Again.
What's harder, Toastmasters or stand up?
I love them both. Now,
Johnny
I
Down Under,
reckon
right?
stand-up's harder because Toastmasters is an encouraging environment to help everyone there speak,
Yeah.
where especially these days, stand-up is often you've got people in the audience and they think it's their job to bring you
Give you
down or
feedback.
to heckle you or see how well you respond to a heckle. So thanks for
And there's
alluding to the fact
alcohol
that
related
what's
in
that?
comedy. And there's alcohol related when you're doing comedy,
Yeah,
right? Your
exactly. So
Toastmasters crowd is not inebriated.
that's right. So they're feeling a bit freer and socially lubricated, and thanks for alluding to the fact that I've done some stand up, which I really, really enjoyed. I just wrote down things that I thought was funny and then shared
Yeah.
it and then got some stage time and it was really good. And a lot of the things I shared was with about my relationship with my wife. So we talked about how we met. So I dragged that out a bit and talk about and put a few punchlines in there, but talk about how initially we did meet on a dating site, and then we had our first date and then off from there. But my preferences were over 35, every other star sign except Scorpio, and I'm a tall kind of guy, so I said over 5'10". And Renee was over 35. She was a Scorpio, and she's 5'6". So you gotta be careful what you wish for. You never know whether you get that or not. And one of the things I love about stand up is just trying to make people laugh. So I'm up there with my intention of trying to facilitate everyone having a good time. And I like being up there talking about the things that I was talking about. I got 5 minutes stage time in Malaysia once,
Oh,
and I got about 20 minutes of what I considered good stuff that
okay.
usually gets a laugh every time.
Uh-huh.
And they love to smoke cigarettes over there in Malaysia. And so I thought I'll start with one of my lines where they introduced me. I get on stage and I go, oh, sorry about that. I just gave up smoking too. I only smoked after sex and I got down to a pack a day. And that usually got a bit of a chuckle,
Yeah.
People might not be wrong.
Warm them up.
Warm them up. Good way
Yeah.
to start. And then off we go from there. I said that line and there was crickets, not a sound,
Uh-huh.
nothing, not even a giggle.
No.
And then I did the rest of my set and it was not that well received. So definitely say I bombed. And I had no idea why, because I'd used this material before. And, I thought even if I don't think it's super funny, you usually get a giggle or something, but I was getting absolutely nothing. And then the next comedian came on who was an American and he said, one thing about Australians, you can never fucking understand them. And they all laughed. And so did I.
You're like, motherfucker.
It was a bit of a relief actually, because I thought, oh my God, I'm probably speaking too fast or something and they can't understand a word I'm saying and I'm trying to make them laugh, wondering why. So I, heaps of lessons in that. Cater for your audience. I had no idea that I had to slow down or tailor my delivery for the particular audience, just in terms of basic communication and them understanding what I'm saying, let alone if it was funny or not.
Yeah, I think it'd be so. I've been teasing the idea a bit because I think it'd be fun. Like I already do public speaking, and the idea of bombing is scary, but the idea of making people laugh is pretty great. So I been teasing it a little bit. So maybe one day. Maybe I'm going to Austin for 4th of July, so maybe I'll do Kill Tony.
Nice. Well, here in Australia, and I'm sure it's the same all around the world, is there are stand-up comedian courses you can do, and that's what I did.
Really?
It was just a 3-week or 5-week thing, and then in your last week, they had all 6 of us did a show together. So then there's like a graduation thing, but it's actually you're doing a stand-up show
Was that in person or online?
in person.
Oh, cool.
And that was really good because you got to work your material through that time and do a bit of theory and do whatever with someone, with obviously a comedian that knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And so you deliver it so many times in front of the class. Sorry. It's another great public speaking tip. We delivered it so much in front of the class. By the time you delivered it to the audience, you were very familiar with the material.
Mm-hmm.
And knew where you might get some laughs. Now, the other thing, Nick, that I learned, and this is there is so many benefits in learning. You definitely got to be doing as well. But I learned that you need to be every 15 seconds trying to get a laugh.
Really? That
Yeah,
quickly?
so I wouldn't have known that, right? So, and not all comedians or people that start out would know that, because you think, oh, this is funny. But you spend a minute on the setup, and then if it doesn't land, you've got 90 seconds they haven't had a laugh yet, and
Right.
they're bored, right? So every 15 seconds, so if something doesn't work, in 15 seconds you've got something else coming up. So you're trying to get 4 laughs a minute. Some of them will work, some won't. But the odds are in your favor that at least in that minute, 1 or 2 might land, especially when you're
Yeah.
starting. But if you've already worked that material, oh, when I say this, people might laugh, or when I say that, people might laugh. The other surprising thing is you get laughs where you didn't expect you'd get laughs. And that's the benefit of stage time. The other big learning is there's no substitute for stage time.
Yeah. 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 It's the reality for comedy, for public speaking, for storytelling, for all of it, right? You got to get reps in.
Exactly, mate.
What do you think makes a good storyteller?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've thought about it a lot, because there's some techniques that you can use, hero's journey, and there's some other great techniques out there. I've got a whole bunch of what they call pip decks up there to help you write a story. And one of the things that I found, whether you follow a framework or not, is just being genuine.
Yeah.
If you're genuine, you're speaking from the heart, and you can connect with your audience, I think that's the biggest thing I'd say.
Yeah. I think excitement is a big one that doesn't get said a lot too. Like if you're excited about what you're saying, like other people are excited because it just comes through, right?
I couldn't agree with you more. I did a course called Present Like a Pro, and one of the activities we had to do was feel the feeling that we wanted the audience to feel as we were speaking. Because the idea is if you feel it, they'll feel it.
Yeah.
So if you're
And
talking about
going
excitement, yep, you feel that excitement as you're doing it, chances are your audience will feel it too.
Yeah, and going back to your, be, do, have mentality, I've seen some cool studies where exercises where they had people give a presentation and they said, great, now do it again, but pretend you're Steve Jobs, right? And then they were a much better much better presenter, right? Do it again, and now you're Martin Luther King Jr.,
Yep.
right? And, just having that mentality is great too.
Yeah, and given the freedom and the permission to do it that way that you might not have thought of, and someone suggests something to you that makes a difference in the way you do it next time.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
John, I appreciate you coming on today. Before we get out of here, can you tell us one of your favorite stories?
Yes. I'm going to tell you the story about a cookie thief, Nick.
Let's do it. Tell me.
All right. It's a poem, and I heard someone, I think it was Dr. Wayne Dyer, say, if you've got a favorite poem, memorize it. I thought, well, that's a good idea. So I did that, and I've delivered this poem plenty of times in some of my speaking. So here it goes. A woman was waiting at the airport one night with several long hours before her flight. She hunted for a book in the airport shop, and she bought a bag of cookies and found a place to drop. She was engrossed in her book, but she happened to see that the man beside her, as bold as could be, grabbed a cookie or two from the bag between, which she tried to ignore to avoid a scene. She read, munched cookies, and watched the clock, while the gutsy cookie thief diminished her stock. She was getting more irritated as the minutes ticked by, thinking, if I wasn't so nice, I'd blacken his eye. With each cookie she took, he took one too. When there was only one left, she wondered what he'd do. With a smile on his face and a nervous laugh, he took the last cookie and he broke it in half. He offered her half as he ate the other, and she snatched it from him and thought, oh, brother, this guy has some nerve and he's also rude. Why, he didn't even show any gratitude. She'd never known when she'd been so galled, and sighed with relief when her flight was called. She gathered her belongings and headed for the gate, refusing to look back at that thieving ingrate. She boarded the plane and sank in her seat, and then she sought for her book, which was almost complete. She reached into her bag and gasped with surprise. There was her bag of cookies in front of her eyes. If these are mine, she moaned in despair. Those other cookies were his, and he tried to share. Too late to apologise, she realised with grief she was the ingrate. She was the rude one. She was the thief.
I love that. That is so good. So good on perspective. What is that? Why does that connect with you?
Because there's always more to a situation than what you realise. That was the big takeaway for me. So just like that lady thought that guy was stealing her cookies, so she thought that was exactly what was happening, and that's how life is, and that's how that moment was. And didn't realise that there was more to the situation, that she was wrong. Sometimes in a seminar or whatever, I'll hold up a coffee cup and I'll say, "What do you see?" And you'll say, "Oh, I see a handle and a thing." And I'll say, "I don't see that." I go, "Yeah, it's there." I'll go, "No, I don't see that."
Mhm.
Just to show that there's always more than what you think, and sometimes always what you see. So I thought it was a great personal development story. And I'm glad you asked me to tell that story, because out of this whole interview, people may just remember some of the stories we told today, and including the cookie thief.
I love it. John, thank you for taking the time. Before we get out of here, can you tell listeners what projects you're working on and where they can hear from you more?
Thanks, Nick. If you go to johnmerkus.com, you'll see all my stuff there. You can follow me on the socials through there. The Rise and Thrive Conversation for Greatness podcast is something that you might be interested in. Also on my website, I've got the Mindset Meditation app. So if you like the sound of my voice, you would like me to tell you how great you are, you would like to go to sleep with me, I've also got a millionaire mindset meditation you can do in that app. It's $4 Australian a month. So what's that, about 50 cents US? So I say for the less than a price of a cup of coffee a month, for that you got access to that. So if that's of interest to people, jump onto that. And thanks for giving me the opportunity today. I think you're an amazing individual, and if there's anything I can do for you, please don't hesitate to ask, because I love what you're up to.
Thank you, John. And you have a great voice. You really could be on radio. Maybe it's just a good mic. I don't know, but I hear it.
Yeah, I did do a bit of radio at a station here called 3SA, and we had to say we're playing favourites all the time. So there you go. It's 22 past the hour. We're playing favourites.
Thank you, John.